Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you are all well and you are enjoying your distance learning. Today we are going to be doing some guided reading, and just like we do in class, we're going to look at a book. We're going to remind ourselves of our reading strategies. I'm going to then read the book to you, and then you're going to have a go for me, and then to finish off we're going to have some fun and play a Kahoot quiz. But first, let's remind ourselves of some reading strategies. The first one we like to use a lot is our eagle eye. This is when we look at the word, we take the first letter of that word and find pictures in our book that can help us to figure out how to say the word. Our next one is our stretchy snake. We use our stretchy snake by looking at the letters in the word, we stretch out the sounds and we slowly put them back together. So for example, if I want to say ship, I would say sh-i-p, ship. Let's have a go at some stretchy snakes of our own. So wobbly, w-o-b-l-e. You have a go for me. Good job. Fantastic. Let's say it one more time all together. Wobbly. W-o-b-l-e. Wobbly. Good work. Let's try one more. Tumble. T-um-b-l. Tumble. You have a go for me? Lovely job. Let's try it all together one more time. Tumble. T-um-b-l. Tumble. Fantastic job. Now today, what we are going to read is The Lazy Giant. Let's have a go. So boys and girls, this is what your book will look like on Oxford Owl. I made a video showing how your parents can access Oxford Owl. That was put on Class Dojo on Thursday, the 26th of March. So your parents should now be able to access Oxford Owl. So let's have a go. The Lazy Giant. Chapter 1. The Giant. Once there was a horrible old giant. He lived in a big castle on top of the mountain, and he was very lazy. The giant was so lazy he needed servants to look after him. But nobody wanted to work for him at all. One day the giant went down the mountain. At the bottom was a little cottage. 12 children lived there, all on their own. The girls were called Lottie, Dottie and Tottie, and Bessie, Jessie and Nessie. And the boys were called Cliff, Riff and Sniff, and Ken, Ben and Den. Now they would make good servants, thought the giant, so he carried them off back to his castle. Chapter 2. Is my breakfast ready? Every morning the children had to get up very early, light the big stove and fetch lots of water. Then they had to make a huge pot of porridge for the giant. At 6 o'clock the giant would yell, "Is my breakfast ready?" But one morning the children woke up a bit late. The stove wouldn't light and the water wouldn't flow, so the giant's porridge was lumpy. "You lazy lot!" roared the giant. All the children started to shake. The castle itself began to quake. The giant was so angry, he picked up Tottie and dropped her into his bowl of porridge. Now Tottie was the smallest child of all. She was only as tall as the giant's boot. Her little yellow hat fell off and bobbed on top of the porridge. "Yuck, yuck, yuck!" cried Tottie. "I may be teeny, but I do not scream, not even for a giant so mean." As soon as the giant's back was turned, Lottie and Dottie pulled Tottie out Without her hat she looked even smaller than ever. Chapter 3. Is my castle clean? Every afternoon the children had to scrub and polish and sweep and rub, and everything had to shine like a new pin. At 2 o'clock the giant would yell, "Is my castle clean?" But one afternoon the polish ran out, the head fell off the broom, and the bristles fell out the great scrubbing brush. And the giant found some cobwebs in a corner. "You dirty dopes!" boomed the giant. All the children started to shake, and the castle itself began to quake. The giant was so angry that he picked up Nessie and dropped her into the waste paper basket. Now Nessie was the untidiest of all the children. She always left things on the floor and forgot to comb her hair. "Ugh!" she cried. "I'm not in a stew. There's rubbish all over me. What can I do?" Just as soon as the giant's back was turned, Bessie and Jessie pulled Nessie out. Poor Nessie! She looked untidier than ever. Every night the children had to warm the giant's bed with a great big hot water bottle, and the sheets had to be clean and smooth. At 10 o'clock the giant would growl, "Is my bed ready?" But one night the hot water bottle had a hole in it. Water ran onto the bed, and the giant found the sheets were cold and damp. "You dozy drips!" roared the giant. All the children started to shake, and the castle itself began to quake. The giant was so angry that he picked up Sniff and dropped him in the wash basin. It was huge. Now Sniff always had a cold, but he never moaned. He was always cheerful. "Help!" he cried. "This basin's like an ocean. It has a very choppy motion. The water's rough and dirty brown. Get me out before I drown." As soon as the giant's back was turned, Riff and Cliff fished out Sniff. After his swim in the giant's basin, Sniff sniffed worse than ever. Chapter 4. Hurry Up! Every Sunday the children had to go get the giant's carriage ready. They had to pull it up and down the mountain. He would lie on a soft cushion inside it. At 11 o'clock the giant would roar, "Where's my carriage?" But one Sunday it rained and rained. The lane was muddy and the wheels were wobbly, and so the giant wasn't going as fast as he liked. He roared, "Hurry up, you little rats!" All the children started to shake, and the carriage itself began to quake. The giant was so angry that he reached out the window and gave Den a push. Now Den was the strongest of them all. He rolled and rolled until he was out of sight. When the other children saw what the giant had done, they were very upset. But they pulled the carriage to the top of the mountain. Then Lottie whispered to Dotty and Totty. Totty whispered to Bessie. Bessie whispered to Jessie and Nessie. Nessie whispered to Cliff. Cliff whispered to Riff and Sniff whispered to Ben and Ken. They all nodded. The children gave the carriage a huge push. The carriage raced down the hill. It creaked and rattled, it banged and clattered. The giant bounced out the carriage. He rolled down the mountain until he fell into a muddy hole. Chapter 5. Just in time. The giant was very angry. "You nincompoops!" he roared. "Get me out!" But the children were safely out of giant's reach. And then Ken and Ben heard a voice. "Help!" it said. "Den I was, and Den I am. I thought I'd never see you again. But thanks to the tree on the side of the hill, your strongest friend is with you still." den was hanging on a tree branch. As quickly as they could, the children rescued him. They were only just in time. "Get me out of here!" the giant was bellowing and banging, yelling and thumping. He made so much noise the rocks on the mountain began to tumble. Before the giant could say, "You blockheads," a big rock rolled down the mountain and clonked him on the head. He was knocked out cold. Quick as a wink, the children ran down the mountainside, laughing and shouting. They were so happy to go back home again. As for the giant, he got himself out the hole and crawled back to his castle. He never tried to catch the children again, and so, if he ever wanted anything done, he had to do it himself. Now that I have read the book, children, I would like you to go all the way back to the beginning and have a go at reading it yourself. If you are struggling with some of the words, please rewind the video to listen to me read it to you again, or down here on Oxford Owl you can press play and Oxford Owl will read it to you again. So boys and girls, you should all be finished with reading your book by now, and you should be on your Kahoot. This is what Kahoot looks like. You can access it through Google, or if you are doing your guided reading on a iPad or a tablet or even an iPhone, you can download Kahoot from the App Store. So, to start you off, you'll need to enter a Kahoot PIN. So your PIN for this quiz is 0849288. Let's press enter. When it is loaded, this is what will come up. You have 4 questions and there is a time limit, so make sure you're being nice and speedy but careful so that you are making sure you're getting your right answers. To join the game, all you need to do is enter your name and press OK, go. Once you have done that and completed the quiz, please send me or your class teacher a picture to show us that you have completed your guided reading. Enjoy and have fun!